time to get serious. So for probably over a year now, I've kind of been feeling overwhelmed by the amount of stuff I have. In today's video, I'm setting out to declutter, and I'll be uncovering a few mindset shifts and tricks that I'm using to help myself specifically with the motivation to do this. If you want to learn some tips and tricks on how to get motivated yourself with honestly anything, but definitely if you're trying to declutter, then make sure you stick around till the end. I've tried for years to get this right, and I can honestly say it's just now starting to click. So, despite moving very frequently, I would say at least once a year, kind of, sometimes every 6 months, chaotically. Despite moving so frequently, I have accumulated quite a few things, and in each move, we move pretty much every single one of those items. Some stuff I get rid of, but I'm never left feeling lighter. Every time I move, it's pretty hectic. So move after move, I have promised myself I would declutter. And honestly, when the time came to it, there was just always something going on, some excuse I had, and it never really got done. Like maybe a few items here and there that I tossed. Yeah, I would just end up packing my whole life up basically in the span of a week because I ended up procrastinating and not prioritizing decluttering. So basically that means things got panic thrown into my car or storage or the dumpster, sometimes on move out day, or just like shoved into vehicles. Literally, last time we moved, I think it was the morning that we were supposed to hand in the keys, and literally stuff would no longer fit into our cars. And so I'm ashamed to say, but I literally left it in my apartment complex's dumpster. Perfectly good things that I hadn't even planned on decluttering. So found it interesting because basically the stuff I had wanted to declutter, I didn't end up prioritizing. And then I ended up shoving those things into the storage or boxes or whatever. And then I ended up decluttering things that I wouldn't have even decluttered, things that I would have kept. But there literally was not room for it. So this is all about not necessarily getting rid of things, but creating space for what you actually want. And yeah, the whole thing with me literally having to just ditch stuff randomly in my apartment complex dumpster the day I move out, that is how type B I really am. So after that last move, I promised myself I would give myself a head start with decluttering, and I literally moved into this place with the intention of okay, every month I'm gonna declutter some stuff. So my approach for this declutter is going to be basically just getting an organized plan that I make for myself, combining elements of, some other kind of decluttering videos and challenges that I've seen, and then basically just creating my own strategy, because if there's one thing I've learned trying to do this over the last few years and failing time and time again, it's that I guess my brain works a little differently, for better or worse. So I kind of mentioned a few challenges or frameworks that I've tried in the past. One of those being the 30-day minimalist challenge or game that I tried, but with a slight twist. And that failed kind of miserably, to say the least. Not ashamed to say it. I think I messed it up, which I've made a whole video about this. I'll link it below. But basically, mistakes were made, motivation was lost, and it didn't work for me. It just didn't. It was pretty foolish of me to think that I would know better maybe than the minimalists themselves. But yeah, I think basically that failure was on me, and I'm gonna try it differently next time. Also, on the topic of the minimalists, you might have seen their packing party video. I've basically been doing that like organically for the last 4 or 5 years of my life just because I move so frequently. And I'm ashamed to say, every time, you know, the opportunity to throw a box would come out, I end up opening the box and basically just can't part with the stuff, or I'm like, oh, that might fit good in the next space, let me hold on to it, or so I just haven't had success with the packing party methodology either. And yeah, I don't know. I guess I would suggest the packing party thing if you are maybe in a more permanent place, or like you'll be in your house for at least 5 years or something. But for me, sometimes it's difficult, especially to part with certain clothes like heavy winter jackets and stuff, just because I don't really know like when I'll need it. I could need it in 6 months, I could need it next year. Just so despite all these excuses, I'm still pretty motivated to declutter this time around, at least a little bit, maybe. I would say that I'm at the point that I do feel like I've found my why and my reason to declutter that will kind of motivate me to see it through this time around. And I hate to use that like term, see it through, because I firmly believe that this is going to be a lifestyle change. I don't think it's going to be just like a one and done. I attacked my house and then now all of a sudden I'm like living like Marie Kondo without any maintenance. Like, I think it's going to be something that I'm going to need to work on probably every week, knowing me, because if I schedule something every month, it's just realistically not going to happen, knowing me. So I'm gonna, I guess, touch on like my why a little bit later. I'm gonna be making more content like this as well, kind of documenting my framework / strategy and this journey. And so honestly, if you're in the same boat, I would love it if you subscribed and maybe we could do this together. I would love to help, honestly, anyone that, you know, kind of just wants to go through this or is going through similar things. Maybe you're in like the first phase of it, maybe you're moving and you need to kind of declutter some stuff, or maybe you've like been in the same place and you're going to be in the same place for a while, but you just haven't found the motivation or your reason. I mean, unless you're honestly so pared down already, I feel like anyone can kind of benefit from this. So I would love if you guys tell me kind of like what phase you're in with this, what you've tried that has worked, maybe where you've failed, and yeah, I would just love to know. But yeah, like honestly, if I think about it, the truth is, I don't think there's really been any one event that has got me interested in decluttering or really like caused me to feel like I need to. I think it's just been kind of a buildup of things over time, but I do feel like they have manifested now to an extent that I definitely feel more motivated this time around. And I thought it would be. I thought it would be like one event, right? Like I kept looking for, oh, okay, like I have company coming. I'm gonna declutter and like clean up and make everything, you know, organized. Or I thought it would be like one of the many moves that I've kind of done, which obviously is stupid because it's literally like I've moved, like I said, so frequently and it obviously hasn't changed anything. So I don't know why I kept searching for like that one thing that would literally change kind of the trajectory, but for whatever reason I did. I'd always find excuses, or the time never came, or it was like the time did come, but I was so unprepared and so tired, and I just didn't have the energy to like really do it right, I want to say, like, if that makes sense. And like, I mean, I mentioned like the panic packing earlier, like that's definitely happened several times. And for whatever reason, these things like would come about, but it was never enough to compel me to really sit down, plan it out, strategize, and execute. Like, it was just something I kind of thought about nebulously and I didn't write down. And I should have known that that was like a recipe for failure for me, because I'm someone who like really has to write everything down or like do it myself or like have a plan to follow, or else I get completely hilariously off track. Like it's not even funny. I think everyone's been there where like you end up looking through your closet and then you end up like in a Halloween costume that you had from 5 years ago. Like, what are we even doing? So yeah, I'm no exception. But like I said, I've tried and failed so many times that I think like by now it's starting to click. I also think I had like the wrong mindset about it completely. So like I said, I kind of thought it would be like an isolated event in my life that just happened. I would declutter and then I would like live like that for the rest of my life. So I thought about it more as like an event rather than like a lifestyle change. So I think that's what I'm also coming to accept, is that like it's gonna take a lot of work up front, yes, but also it's gonna take work after that as well. So small, concentrated efforts spaced out over time to maintain what I want to maintain. So I do think a why or a reason will look different for everyone. For me, honestly, like I said, I just noticed a couple things snowballing and like manifesting into other things. Like, obviously I have heard a lot and have read a lot about like the psychology of clutter and the impact that it has on like low level stress. And I can say that I do feel like that has been impacting me more within the last year maybe. And even before that, probably more than I realized, honestly. I always felt like I was scrambling to get ready, rush out of the house. I never felt, quite as put together as I used to or as I would like to, just because I felt like everything was so chaotic, from honestly my closet to my countertops. Like, I just feel like there's been a lot to sift through that I haven't taken the time. So a lot of delayed decisions, which I'll talk more about in like later videos. Not to mention like this was hard for me, but also it's completely unfair to anyone else that I share my space with. So I think that basically causes like stress for everyone in the household. So I knew that having all this stuff around was not helping me accomplish anything that I actually wanted to accomplish. It was definitely distracting me, but the truth is, like, my reason and my motivation for decluttering, I think really hit me when I think I noticed that the underlying kind of low level, not urgent enough to deal with stress was kind of seeping into other areas of my life, and it did start to affect my health. I mean, that sounds so dramatic, but I do feel like it, it does force you to make maybe like lazier choices over time, I'll call them. And I know everyone gets busy, but again, I definitely noticed like, it was just affecting my attention span, therefore my relationships, and it affected like the time I had to dedicate towards things that I really wanted to spend time on, but I felt like I just didn't have the time, or it felt overwhelming, for whatever reason. But I think all these lifestyle factors and the underlying low-level stress and just like chaotic feeling, I think they definitely did affect my physical health as well. So I noticed I was more tired. I was less patient and like snappier, I'd call it, but in a bad way. And I also noticed I had a few more gray hairs, which I was not happy about. And I do feel like it was from maybe stress. Of course, I'm sure age is a factor, but yeah. So again, I think all of this is probably normal. But yeah, I really hadn't been living the healthiest lifestyle. I felt like I was drowning just in my everyday life. And for example, like sometimes I'd avoid going to the gym that day, or I'd avoid cooking like a healthy meal. I would just eat out instead, something like super fatty and like satisfying instead of maybe like a salad like I should have been eating. And I'd literally just avoid that for two reasons. One, because I felt like, oh my gosh, my kitchen feels so cluttered. Like literally if I cook something now, it's gonna be even more cluttered, and then I'm gonna have to spend like the time cleaning it when I already like had no energy. And then also I didn't plan out anything because everything felt so chaotic that I was just like reacting more than anything else. And so by the time I realized like, oh wait, I am starving, I would be like literally so hungry that I just needed something immediately instead of like taking the time to actually cook something nice for myself. And yeah, I just felt like kind of scrambling, like I was kind of scrambling to get by. And I don't know if at any point, like, there was no switch, right? Like, it was more just something that happened kind of slowly over time, and I would say like became a little worse over time. So I took a step back and I realized that I needed to really like prioritize my health over everything else, kind of like with just in terms of like things I wanted to do, things I wanted to accomplish, things that were floating around in my head but like never really getting done. I took a step back when I noticed like a new mole that was on my forehead, and yeah, I knew it was like not a great one just because how it was behaving. And yeah, I went to the dermatologist. I got it checked out and it did come back as cancerous, which like I did think it would. To be clear, I don't think this was like solely because of my like cluttered house or whatever, or just like noise in my mind. I did serious damage in my teens and 20s, like in the sun and tanning beds and just a bunch of other stuff that I shouldn't have been doing. But like now I feel like it had started to catch up with me. So like, yeah, obviously you're older, so it catches up with you. But I feel like in your 30s, you have to like focus even more on your health. And like I said, I was dealing with like a low level of stress, I would say. Not even like constantly stressed, just constantly mentally preoccupied. And I was not taking the time to like make healthy meals and stuff. I would go to the gym, but I would say sometimes I would just go through the motions instead of like really taking the time to enjoy it and do things right. And then I would rush out of the house without like a sunscreen on maybe, or like a hat, which obviously now is like a no-no for me. So yeah, I just feel like it had been like a slight wake-up call to maybe pay more attention to my health and like take it a little bit more seriously, because if you don't force yourself to slow down, like I do think the world will slow you down. Like it will do that. And I do feel like for everyone, your lifestyle and your environment does affect your physical health. It affects your mental health for sure. But I think like at least a lot of us probably, and I know I'm guilty of this, like I'll just tough through it and try to like ignore it for another day and just deal with it another day and just get the thing done that I have on my mind in that moment. But yeah, it adds up, and I do think your mental health will seep into other areas of your life and affect your physical health too. So I want to point out as well, like I talk about micro stressors and having like that low level of stress a lot, but I want to point out that it was like really subtle for me, and it has been really subtle because I'm actually quite happy. Like at no point did I really feel unhappy. Like I felt stressed and overwhelmed, sure. But like some of that stress was like positive, like happy stress. I don't know if that makes sense. I have no idea if I'm making any sense. Please let me know in the comments, like if you know kind of what I'm talking about. But it would be like something exciting that I had going on that I would like delay what I needed to do, or just something that I'm like, wait, this is way cooler. I'll put off, you know, curating my space because I want to do this other thing. Yeah, I just think things just got busy. I'd ignore my responsibilities, and now I kind of feel like I'm paying for it a little bit. So like so many things have happened, especially in the past few years in my life, that I've been so grateful for and like blessed with. And I know it sounds so ridiculous because so many people have like more problems than just like a cluttered house, but I do feel like me being happily distracted for all those years kind of like did add up. And I do feel like now it's time to really buckle down and get a handle on it, because obviously things are affecting me more than I thought. So yeah, I guess if you're someone who, like me, is happy and like nothing's really going wrong, but you do feel like your space is kind of bugging you and you have like a low level of stress about it, but it's not that big of a deal, this video is definitely for you. And I'm telling you, don't put it off. Like, take the time for yourself. Build systems in your life to make things easier and smoother so that you're not always just in a reactive state. The sooner you get started and you stop putting off the little things, the better you're going to feel. For sure. I don't have any doubts about this, honestly. And I promise you that the little things are probably affecting you way more than you think. I know that a lot of things are out of our control and life gets busy and there's no sense in trying to be perfect. But if you're able to pinpoint your why on why you really want to do this and why you really want to kind of start decluttering and improving your life and implementing systems that make it easier to maintain the life you want, you can at least strive to be better. So again, without striving for perfection, because I firmly believe that's a trap, small changes, smart systems implemented over time will work wonders for you. And if there's one takeaway I want you to get from this video, it's please stop putting it off. You need to do this. You know you need to do this. And I hope you find the motivation to get started today and do that for yourself, and you'll be so thankful that you did. And just know that while there may be more interesting things going on or things that you want to pursue, you are definitely worth the time. So I'd love to know where you're at in your journey, in your decluttering journey. Have you tried anything before? What's worked? What hasn't? What motivates you? What do you think your reason is? It might not end up being your reason. And I'd love to know what you're struggling with too. Consider subscribing if you're interested in content like this, or if you want to make bets on if I'll fail this time. I am putting together like a framework that I plan on using, and I'll make a more detailed video about it in the future. But anyway, thanks for watching, and like I said, don't delay, do it today when it comes to decluttering, unintentional rhyming. But yeah, thanks for watching.